Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good morning, colleagues.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, Chair.
Thank you. Is everyone okay this morning? Can we start our meeting? Does everyone else have the agenda for today?
Good morning, Chair and members. Yes, Chair, I did send it last night, Chair,
Okay,
to all the members.
all right.
But I can also share it for now, Chair.
Yeah, please share it. Colleagues, good morning once more. We're meeting today with, and good morning, DG, honorable members. The Human Rights Commission. And the People's Tribunal on AgroToxins. I don't know whether you call it SAPToA, but you are welcome this morning to this meeting. We will start by the presentation on the People's Tribunal, and they are led by the Human Rights Commission. So Commissioner Ntuli will be leading the presentation. The presentation that we're going to have today, colleagues, comes from the presentation that we've had previously from the Human Rights Commission when they made a presentation on pesticides. And out of that, the tribunal wanted to come and make their own presentation. So that's why we have them here today. You are most welcome, everyone. And the meeting is officially opened. Albertina, if you can assist us with the apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we receive apologies from Minister Chair, DM Chair, DM Kapa Chair. Minister is attending, is part of the delegation with the President to USA, and DM Kapa is participating in Brazil on the dialogue on food security, as well as apology from MP Tabekulu Chair due to other commitments. Those are the three apologies that I received, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From the members, is there any apology that you would like to raise before we continue? I don't see any hand. Do we duly correct Albertina?
Yes, Chair, the committee do correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we will start with the items on the agenda. So the agenda, colleagues, is, as you can see, after the presentation by the SAHRC and the People's Tribunal, we will then have, and then after the discussions, we will then take the second item, which is the tabling of the invitation from the Minister of Finance on nominations of candidates to serve on the board of Land Bank. And the last one would be the tabling of and consideration of the revised 2025 second term committee program, and then we close. So after the presentation that we're going to take now and the discussions, we will then release everyone else because the other two items are for the committee members. Thank you. Commissioner Ntuli, are you ready? Just before you come in, DG, is there anything you would like to raise? I saw DG somewhere here. Okay, while we wait for him, Commissioner Ntuli.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson. I wonder if you can see me.
Yes, we can see you.
Good
We can
morning,
see you clearly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Honorable Pillay. Greetings
Thank
to
you.
the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, colleagues and all guests. It's a pleasure, Honorable Chair, to meet with you this morning to further our conversation on pesticides and human rights. And this morning, Honorable Chair and honorable members, joined by an esteemed team, which I wish to introduce as such. Firstly, Judge Pillay, who needs little to no introduction to most of us. She was the first Black woman judge of the High Court of South Africa. She served as the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights from 2008 to 2014. She has also served as a judge of the International Criminal Court and president of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. She is currently the president of the International Commission Against the Death Penalty and judge ad hoc in the International Court of Justice in the case of Gambia and Myanmar. We are also joined by Dr. Sophia Kisting-Kenkos, who is the former director of the National Institute for Occupational Health and also led the International Labour Organization's global program on HIV and AIDS and the world of work. She was the medical advisor for the parliamentary committee coordinating the groundbreaking parliamentary asbestos summit in 1998 with extensive worker and community participation. She is currently working toward the prevention and elimination of asbestos, silicosis, and TB among health workers and miners. To support us, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we are joined by Professor Leslie London, the Chair of the Public Health Medicine in the School of Public Health and Family Medicine at the University of Cape Town. Prof. London has a doctor's appointment and will be joining us from 10:30. We are also joined by Heidi Swanby, who is the coordinator of the South African People's Tribunal on AgroToxins. Honorable Chair and honorable members, as the South African Human Rights Commission, we met with the Portfolio Committee on 4 February 2025, where we highlighted grave concerns over the human rights impact of the use of herbicides and similar pesticides, particularly on the right to food, bodily integrity, and the right to life. The Commission emphasized the urgent need for the state to act swiftly and follow the example of other countries by implementing an immediate ban on herbicides and other harmful pesticides. The Portfolio Committee agreed with us on the need for immediate action to protect farm workers and their families, ensuring that pesticide regulation and food security concerns were addressed in a balanced and evidence-based manner. The Commission, Honorable Chair, advocated for the adoption of regenerative agriculture and stronger government action to protect public health. The Minister of Agriculture, who was present during our engagements, conceded that herbicides in particular and other highly hazardous pesticides in general could be banned immediately if alternatives were available. The committee further noted the proposition of the South African Human Rights Commission that a multi-sectoral task team should be established and allocated a time frame of 6 months to conduct the necessary research on available and efficient alternatives to herbicides and other highly hazardous pesticides, with a view of an effective ban on herbicides in 6 months. Honorable Chair, this morning's engagement is a rejoinder to our February discussions. Today's briefing follows public hearings convened by the People's Tribunal on AgroToxins in March 2025. The jury heard live testimony from survivors of pesticide poisoning and exposure on farms as well as factories. We heard from trade unions, farm workers and dwellers, small-scale farmers, researchers, and experts on the types of pesticides that are used by big corporations in South Africa, as well as their impact on health, mainly of poor and marginalized communities. The jury, Honorable Chair, also heard testimony on international obligations that are being flouted by our government. We also received testimony on how government connives with big corporations bent on profiteering at the expense of human and environmental health, and the general secrecy that has come to characterize pesticide use in the agricultural industry, many of them which are classified as highly hazardous pesticides, as I have mentioned. The tribunal, Honorable Chair, honorable members, was adjudicated by Judge Pillay, Judge Navi Pillay, whom I have introduced, Dr. Sophia Kisting-Kencross, as well as myself. This morning's briefing is led by the three of us. Our main aim today, honorable members, is to enhance participatory democracy by ushering South Africa forward in our collective quest to preserve human rights and to combat all forms of environmental racism. The structure of our submission is as follows. Having submitted this introduction and background, I wish to invite through yourself, Honorable Chair, Judge Navi Pillay, who will brief you on the work of the tribunal with a focus on the legal implications and responsibilities of the state. After Judge Pillay, Dr. Sophia Kisting-Kencross will summarize the tribunal submissions and provide an overview of research studies that have been conducted on this topic. Following Dr. Kisting, lastly will be Judge Pillay, who will thereafter make submissions on the relief that we seek and proposed way forward. We will thereafter avail ourselves for committee reflections and engagement, Chairperson. With that, and through yourself, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to then invite Judge Pillay. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Ntuli, for the introduction. Judge Pillay, the floor is yours. Judge Pillay. Please unmute.
The judge might be having some technical difficulties. I will request Heidi, our coordinating support, to just call Judge Pillay to see if she needs any assistance. And perhaps through yourself, Chair, maybe Dr. Kisting can come in while Judge Pillay is, oh, there she is, she's here.
Yeah, so Honorable Chair and Honorable members, unfortunately I have to begin with an apology for these few minutes, but the technician on your side has just allowed me to unmute, so that was the problem. Let me say from all my experience and as High Commissioner, I chaired and met with parliamentarians from all over the world. If I can pick one bottom line that we heard from the witnesses and the victims who testified before us at the tribunal, it was this, that we may have good laws such as our constitution, but it's not being implemented. And in my view, it is the special role of Parliament to look into implementation and whether our government and corporations are complying with the law in South Africa, and also whether they are complying with undertakings they've given internationally. So therefore, I wish to say how much our Commission appreciates this opportunity to address you. I notice that you already have a great deal of information, and as Commissioner Thuli said, you have actually taken action in your last decision in calling for a gradual ban on the part of the authorities and corporations. This will be addressed by one of us and on why we think. All right, there's interruptions there. All right, you see me now. So my task today is to just briefly go over the legal system here inside our country and internationally. And so first you get very encouraged that we have the Constitution, and particularly Article 28, which protects the rights of people. So the complaint before the tribunal is mainly that people are not being protected. In fact, it was really sad for us to hear one person from the Cape Vineyard farm workers area who told us that his grandfather worked in the fields spraying pesticides, as did his parents and now him. And he's already in his late 30s. And his point was that it still operates like the colonial system. Now, of course, we've just held these hearings. We haven't drawn up our report and our recommendations, and I will ensure that we will follow up this by furnishing you with a copy of the tribunal's report, where we go into all these matters in detail. And we have not deliberated amongst us on the recommendations we intend to come out with. And this will really be the voice of those suffering, the communities that are suffering as a result. We heard many incidents across the country. So we ourselves will need an opportunity to deliberate on this. But we want to congratulate the Portfolio Committee in also addressing the issue of taking some action in the future. So that is really forward thinking. So with regard to HHPs, these are the highly hazardous pesticides that can cause serious harm to human health, the environment, and agricultural sustainability. So while all pesticides are dangerous, HHPs are considered particularly risky, and these pesticides can lead to acute or long-term health issues, including cancers, birth defects, and organ damage. They also harm wildlife, soil, and water. So there are environmental impacts as well. The International Code of Conduct on Pesticide Management, the ICCPM, defines HHPs as pesticides that are acknowledged to present particularly high levels of acute or chronic hazards to health or environment, according to internationally accepted classification systems, such as the World Health Organization or Global Harmonized System, GHS, or their listing in relevant binding international agreements. In addition, pesticides that appear to cause severe or irreversible harm to health or the environment under conditions of use in a country may be considered to be and treated as highly hazardous. So what were the international action on HHPs? In 2015, the International Conference on Chemicals and Management, ICCM, recognized the dangers of HHPs and called for action to address them. Governments, including South Africa, agreed to work together to tackle the issue. However, there are no international laws that cover all HHPs. Some HHPs are controlled under international agreements, like the Stockholm and Rotterdam Conventions, of which South Africa is a signatory, or the Montreal Protocol, but national laws manage most of these. So, what can be done? International organizations such as the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, and the World Health Organization, WHO, are helping countries to manage HHPs, and they provide, firstly, guidelines and codes of conduct, tools and advice for safe pesticide management, joint activities that assist countries in raising awareness, building capacity, and managing HHPs. There are 192 HHPs registered and in use in South Africa, of which only 16 have partial bans or restrictions. Over a third, that's what 57 out of 192 of these pesticides are banned in the European Union due to their unacceptable risks to human health and the environment. Additionally, 36 of these pesticides belong to the most hazardous class. WHO groups them as 1A and 1B, which are known to have carcinogenic potential and can cause death in acute poisonings. The Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development must urgently start phasing out the use of toxic chemicals, beginning with HHPs. So it's really disappointing that South Africa is a party to these international conventions and these undertakings, but has not carried them out. And in the SADC region, almost all the other countries observe the ban on these HHPs except South Africa. And I return to my point that we should trust our parliamentarians to take action on this, because you have oversight and you have the power. Now, we heard from the farm workers, and Dr. Sophia will tell you more about the effects of these pesticides on people. But we saw and heard from real people in front of us, mainly workers, and they said they are exposed to these spraying chemicals daily. Men and women spray these chemicals. They have no protection. They have no information on the hazardous quality of these pesticides. And according to our own law, our laws, as well as international laws, they are entitled to information and warned of the dangers. So none of that occurs. The women farm workers told us they don't even receive water to wash their hands after spraying the chemicals. Let me quote here the statement made by the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Toxins, Dr. Marcos Orellana. And he spoke of the contravention of the provisions of the Rotterdam Convention, to which South Africa is a party, and he met with the representatives from our government. To this day, he said, the legacy of pervasive air, water, and chemical pollution disproportionately affects marginalized and poor communities. Many of the pesticides had been linked to cancer, fertility problems, and other serious health impacts. So this was directly brought to the attention of our government, and this was in 2023, without any response against these HHPs. Our national law is the Occupational Health and Safety Act, 85 of 1993, which says that employers, so it places the responsibility on employers, must take measures to protect their employees from harm that can be caused at work, to provide them with information and training necessary to ensure health safety at work. That's Section 8.1 and Section 8.2. So we have it in our law. We have the responsibility of employers in our law. But as Commissioner Ntuli said, from our researchers and from what we heard at the tribunal, there seems to be an understanding of connivance between the government and the corporate world in continuing with these systems. Later, you will be informed about the letters that we exchanged with the Minister of Agriculture, Steenhuisen, who attended your deliberations when you reached the decision of leading to a ban, a gradual, step-by-step leading to a ban. And also, you said these HHPs and the chemical pesticides must be identified. They must have labels and names. And as we know, under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, our workers can demand to know the names, to know the hazards, and to know how to prevent harm. I should also mention the Bamako Convention, which bans and controls trans-border movement of hazardous wastes. That's the OAU Convention of 1998, of which clearly we South Africans are a party to. So once again, that's another convention that is not being implemented. There is another convention, the Basel Convention of 1989, with 170 member states on trans-boundary movement, and stressing that the protocol should be the prior informed consent of victims must be obtained. So that is the international standard. We always look for it, whether it's in the national law legislations or international legislation, was the prior informed consent of victims obtained ahead. So from what we heard from victims, they had no idea that these pesticides were harmful to them and caused them, for instance, infertility or early cancer. The Stockholm Convention, of which South Africa is a party, speaks of the persistent organic pollutants. And this was in 2001 that this was established, and South Africa is a member of this. Turbifos has already been mentioned by my colleague, Philila Ntuli, and by you. This honorable committee also addressed it during the last hearings. And that is the toxic pesticide used on farms in the production of food. And as we all know, in October 2024, 6 children in Naledi, Soweto, died after eating snacks from spaza shops. And the tribunal is hearing evidence connecting their deaths and other medical aids and serious illnesses to the drug Turbifos. So many of the coalition of civil society organizations that formed this tribunal are calling for a total ban of Turbifos because of its extreme danger to health. So I've done a brief account of our obligations here in national law and under international laws. And I have huge volume of all these conventions, treaties, and agreements. And I assure you, honorable members, that we will provide you these as soon as we are ready with them. So thank you. I will stop there and hand over to Dr. Sophia Kisting.
Thank you very much, Judge, for the elaborate presentation. Appreciation for availing yourself this morning. We can then invite Doctor to come in.
Good morning, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee.
Good morning.
My fellow jurors already spoke about the tribunal, and I will focus on the days that we sat and that we heard of people's lived experiences with regards to pesticides. And I must tell you, I'm a medical doctor. I'm one of the older Udgigas who've seen a lot in life, and I certainly have seen many workers, because my specialty is occupational medicine. I've seen many workers sick from pesticide poisoning. But I sat there those 2 days utterly bewildered by what I was learning. And I couldn't but think, what is happening to us? Because much of what we heard was of real human tragedies, was of problems, medical, environmental, social, that can be prevented. And we live in such a capable and amazing country, so it really sounded very much like a blot on our landscape. What was most disturbing was that these stories highlighted that it was happening amongst our most vulnerable, and that our children are profoundly impacted. So us coming here today, honorable members, really is to say there is a great urgency to do something about the way that we have the enforcement of our legislation, the way that our legislation is fragmented, the way that our policies are implemented, the way that we monitor what happens to chemicals essentially from the cradle to the grave, and that we hope that we can find the common ground and find collective ways, because it is very clear that the voices of those who are most at risk of these pesticides, that they are not heard, they are not seen, because they are amongst the most vulnerable. And so we are very, very grateful for the coalition of civil society organizations who brought together the tribunal, so that as a nation we can find a way to continue to put a bright spotlight on what is happening. So I want to start with the children, because they are so dependent on us and on our regulatory systems and on the role of our parliament. There's a Nobel laureate from Latin America, from Chile, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the 1940s. Her name was Gabriela Mistral, and she wrote a beautiful poem that in a way sort of embodies the importance of what we need to do about the children. And she says, the child's name is today. His or her bones are being formed, the blood is being formed, and their whole life is ahead of him or her. To them, we cannot say tomorrow. The child's name is today, so we have to act today. We learned from women workers and men workers suffering from asthma related to the spraying of pesticides. We learned about people developing cancer that was very clearly linked to exposure to pesticides. We learned about children having cognitive and neurological problems related to the exposure to pesticides. We learned about women having miscarriages and a problem of fertility with regards to exposure to pesticides. And these were the voices of the victims, the lived experiences of people. And it was told to us often in tears and with a great, great helplessness, because the conditions under which many of them work make it impossible to control the exposures. For instance, people live where the spraying of pesticides take place. There's very, very seldom any boundaries, and the children grow up exposed to pesticides on a daily basis. But access to medical care is very, very difficult. We heard of great difficulty in always having access to toilets where the workers work. And the women repeatedly from different parts of our country told us how they have to squat in the fields because of the lack of toilets and all the resultant problems related to that. The lack of water on a regular basis. So it sounds, almost incomprehensible that these things are happening if you think how rich our country really is. But these are the voices that we have heard. We have heard of people becoming sick with respiratory diseases because of exposure to pesticides, and when they are too sick to work, that they are evicted. And when they are evicted, they are transported away, sometimes in the middle of the night, from a home that they and their parents and their great-great-parents have lived in before. Their children then at the same time are evicted from the schools. And they lose the home that they've known for generations. And this was repeated to us several times, which means that this is a regular occurrence, that if you are too sick to work, there is no more place for you on the farm where you are. Have you lived and worked all your lives, then there's no access to education, and you suddenly find yourself out in the middle of the night in a street somewhere where you are not safe. And we certainly heard from the trade unions that often they have to go out at night to support people who have been evicted. So you can see from the testimonies that we heard and that we will give to you in full in our report, that it doesn't paint a very glowing picture. What was really also surprising is that many workers have blood tests to test pesticide levels in their bloods, but that they, one after the other, would say they don't know the result of the blood test. Now, each one of us would know if we go for a blood test, one of our primary rights is to know what are my blood results. What are they? But the workers do not seem to have access to that information. And that is really unusual. What became clear to us is that people have very few rights. It's got something to do, I think, with being on private land for many of the workers. Not all of them, but many of them are on private lands. And then the land rights and rights of access to health care is problematic. And of course, it's not happening in every instance, but in many instances, it seemed to be much more the norm. In fact, we've heard that even just becoming a member of a union can make you lose your job and therefore your home and the education of your children and the preschool that your children attend and so on. So the relationships, the power relationships on the farms where a lot of our food is grown, where a lot of the good wines that we export are grown, those power relationships seem to be very, very unequal. And I don't think there are enough opportunities for those who produce our food and help ensure our food security to present to us as a nation what they go through, what their conditions of work are, and what the problems are that they encounter. One of the problems that came over and over and over is the lack of the implementation and the monitoring of our laws that exist in the country. The ongoing quest to have regular inspections, but which do not necessarily happen because of a dire lack of inspectors. So there are many, many problems that was brought to us during these 2 days of listening. And we want to share this with the portfolio committee and hopefully with other portfolio committees in detail so that we can find, as I said earlier, that common ground and have a common purpose. Another group of South Africans who presented to us are people in small-scale farming. It involves very much many women, and they have similar problems of exposure to pesticides. In fact, it is our understanding that when they get when they, as startup farmers, when they get a contribution from the Department of Agriculture, that amongst that is pesticides, and so that they utilize the pesticides without fully understanding always, but it also makes them dependent on the continuing use of pesticides. And it boggles the mind why it is that small-scale farmers cannot find alternative ways of growing food that is not alternative ways that is not dependent on the use of pesticides, because as we have heard, there are many problems related to the pesticides. I want to briefly talk about testimonies we received about a fire that happened on the 12th of July in 2021 in Durban, in the Durban area, where there was an undocumented storage of large amounts of pesticides in a warehouse. It was unknown that pesticides were stored there, and it includes the organophosphate, turbophos, and others, many it was. And in 2021, there was an uprising there, and fire was set to this building, this undocumented building where the pesticides was stored, and the UPL fire. And for days and days and days, the fire raged. and our communities and our environment were subjected to very, very high concentrations of chemicals that came out of it. The air, the water, the soil, the seas, the communities. And we had graphic input from people who lived those nights that have changed their lives and their livelihoods forever. But this fire, UPL's fire, speaks to the fragmentation in our regulatory system, speaks to the lack of a proper act on really having proper control about chemicals from the cradle to the graves, speaks to the import of chemicals in our country that then is not adequately regulated because the system is fragmented and because different government departments do different things. And then where do people who are exposed like that, where do they go? Where do they go? And then we learned that the clinic that was near them was then taken away and put in another place. So we are merely, we were merely bearing witness to what was told us, and we are trying to share with you some of the really dreadful experiences of our people, that we seem to fail as a nation, as a government, as employers, as industry, as a parliament. So there is great urgency for us to find solutions. And I am sure that we are capable of doing that. And I'm sure there is much that has been done already. But where we are today, it looks like an enormous tragedy, and we will have to continue to put a spotlight on it through providing you with the details. I want to now briefly come to some of the expert witnesses, what they had to say. What we have learned from the experts, from the international research, from the national research. We learned from the expert witnesses about the fragmentation, the tons upon tons of pesticides imported to our country. And Judge Pillay already spoke about 162 highly hazardous pesticides that comes into our country. And about the number, I think it's about 37, that is banned for use in the European Union, but that is imported into our country. And it boggles the mind. And this is what people are asking. What is different with our bodies that the European Union communities cannot be exposed to these pesticides, but our government allows these pesticides to be imported into our country and we are exposed? Yet, by and large, civil society and communities are inadequately informed about these chemicals that secure our food production, or is meant to secure our food production, but at the same time is also causing so many different problems, both to the environment and to health outcomes. And just a second. We learned further that because of this lack of control and a central sort of cradle-to-grave approach to the control of pesticides in our country, that there is very little control with regards to street pesticides. And our research has been done how readily available pesticides, which should be adequately labeled in our country, how readily they are available on streets and sometimes sold without any labels. So the story of the street pesticides needs to be explored more, looked into, in order once again for us to protect our children. Then we learned about problems that is encountered in informal settlements. And probably for me, one of the most tragic ones was what we learned through the calls that came into one of our poison centers. Poison centers which have now been weakened because of budget cuts, whereas that service to the community is so critically important that we should ensure that the poison centers get adequate funding, because it is a first a call when there is a poison happening, and certainly many of the calls concern pesticides to the poison center. We learn because of the desperate situation in informal communities with regards to the removal of refuse, that there are infestations of rats and cockroaches and so on. And so the people use pesticides they buy on the street in the belief that they are helping their children and their families. We heard of a family where the father went to buy pesticides because mom was going to have a baby and wanted to make the house safe. So that there are no rats, so that there are no cockroaches, and whatever other pests may be because of all the refuse around. And this particular family lost more than one child because of the pesticide. It's a tragedy so profound, a family trying to prepare for the arrival of a newborn, but because of circumstances, because of a lack of information about the pesticides, did not know what harm it could do. In fact, it was used to protect, but it didn't protect, and it protect. We collectively as a nation failed that family. We also learned from the Poison Center that many of the toxicological examinations of the stomach content of people, adults and children who have died, contain pesticides, and they can be identified that way. But that we have a great shortage of toxicologists, because if we don't identify the problem, then we cannot address it. It's not just that we have a lack of toxicologists, us, a country that is so capable, so very, very capable. We have a lack of independent toxicologists, because what came out in the expert witnesses, and certainly from the testimonies and the lived experience of the workers and communities exposed to pesticides, was that there is a great sense that our government rather sides with big industry to carry on with the way that things have been done for many decades, instead of changing urgently so that we can start to protect the lives of the most vulnerable. These are the things, honorable members, that we just want to raise on this very first encounter with you. Amongst the additional information we got from the experts confirmed what some of the workers and community members had to say. Issues related to repeated abortions, issues related to severe skin problems, issues related to children having difficulty in learning. In fact, one of the researchers presented to us information related to children on some of the farms where they wore, they put armbands on the children that could register the amount of pesticides that they were exposed to. And it is frightening to see the results then presented. That our children who play in the fields, who are growing up, whose bones are being formed, whose blood are being formed, the future of our country, that they are exposed to pesticides because they live in the environment that is being sprayed. So, why is it that our country is dependent on the most highly hazardous pesticides? Even just using the less hazardous pesticides will protect the children more, will reduce those exposures that we see on those armbands, will reduce those findings that our children cannot adequately perform in school because their cognitive functions are affected by the pesticides they're exposed to. And so, honorable members, I want to say there is much that need to be done, and it has to be done urgently. One of the recommendations from the experts, one of the things that was impressed on us, that it is of critical importance not to have a long phase out of these very highly hazardous pesticides. That it should be done with great urgency and immediacy, and certainly not for a period longer than 6 months. Otherwise, we continue to contaminate the environment. We continue to contaminate our children. We continue to have it in our food that we all share every day. But there's not enough information about it. So we should encourage more and more research, greater transparency, greater openness. And we should find ways to work together and hold each other accountable. Because if we do not do that, the future and history certainly will not absolve us, because there is much that we can do. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for the presentation. We truly appreciate it. You took us closer to the presentation, the public hearings, with all the information and the examples of painful moments that you were exposed to. Thank you once more. I believe, Commissioner Pillay, you said that Judge Pillay will close. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes because members have to engage with the presentations that you've made.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Indeed, Judge Pillay will then come in just to offer our proposed way forward and relief. So thank you so much, Judge Pillay.
May you please assist Judge Pillay to unmute. Albertina in the team. Honorable Mntwedi, I see your hand up.
Are we not going to wait for Judge Pillay's closing, or can
yes, we are. I thought you wanted to say something before that.
No.
Okay. No, I've noted your hand then.
All right,
waiting
Chair.
for...
Chair,
Yes.
I
Are you here,
apologize
Judge?
again. Yeah, once again, it's on the side of the host. So
Okay.
they've unlocked me now.
Okay, thank you.
So first, I want to say how much I respect the knowledge that the members, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee already have, because you worked on a decision leading to a gradual ban of these products. And as I said, we're going to take many of the recommendations that were made by the suffering communities who are affected. We're going to see what it is they want. And Dr. Sophia has already... All right, I got a message from the host, yes. Dr. Sophia has already referred to the one thing that hit us again and again, how urgent this matter is, how important it is to save lives. So my one recommendation then would be to act fast on this. The other is, I've been looking at the Bamako Convention, and that was adopted in 1998 by the OAU, making it an agreement designed by Africans for Africans. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, is in charge of overseeing it, but the convention was developed because the Basel Convention was seen as not doing enough to protect African countries from hazardous waste. So if this is meant for our continent, and South Africa is part of the discussions. In fact, our president was the chair 2 years ago and Minister Nkosazana Zuma was also the chair of OAU. So this government is very familiar with the standards the Bamako Convention adopted. And I'm just going to zero in on what this convention says, because that is a good guidance on where the country should be going. The purpose of the convention is to ban the import of all hazardous wastes into the African continent for any reason. Because that is the complaint of people, that Africa has become a dumping ground for waste. Secondly, to reduce and control movements of hazardous wastes within the African continent. Thirdly, to ban all dumping or burning of hazardous wastes in ocean and inland water, to ensure that disposal of waste is conducted in an environmentally sound manner, to promote cleaner production instead of allowing waste emissions based on what the environment can handle, and to set up the precautionary principle, which is taking action to prevent harm, even if some cause and effect relationship are not fully understood. And this is why I complimented the Portfolio Committee. You did take action. So what were the key agreements that were agreed to by all the members of the OAU, including our government? Key agreements are where countries agree to make laws to identify and categorize hazard wastes if they are not already listed in the convention. They must ban the import of hazardous waste and dumping of waste in seas, rivers, and other water bodies. Precautionary measures must be adopted to manage waste generation. Countries should set up monitoring and regulatory authorities to control and report the movement of hazardous waste. And they must share information about incidents involving hazardous waste and possible solution to the problem. So the convention covers all hazardous waste, but not waste from ships, which is covered by another agreement. Hazardous materials must have been that have been banned, cancelled, or refused registration for health or environmental reasons are considered hazardous waste under this convention. And of course, radioactive wastes are also included. So this is a convention that focuses very much on hazardous waste, which includes pesticides as well. So as a recommendation for the for pesticides in general, if I may come back to that, since that was the focus of the tribunal of agrotoxins. A key point is how strong are the words in our constitution about the right to information. So we heard again and again from suffering communities that they have no idea. They don't know the names of these pesticides. So the right to information is crucial. And I do believe that should get the focus and action by this honorable committee as well. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Once again, let me say that we still are deliberating on the and summarizing all the evidence we heard, and we undertake to make presentations to you or send you our report in good time. Thank you for this opportunity, Chair.
Thank you very much, Judge Nevi. Our appreciation for the information that you've shared with us this morning. The honorable members would like to interact with you from now. So if there are questions that are going to be asked at the end of the session, we will request that you come back and respond or make comments out of what the honorable members would have raised. Colleagues, I'm giving you now an opportunity to interact with the presentation. The first one is going to be Honorable Muntweji, followed by Honorable Trolip, and Honorable Okam and Davids. Honorable Muntweji, you can start.
A very good morning, Chairperson, and everyone that presented in this very important meeting. What a very emotional presentation that we have received, Chairperson, which I can only imagine how emotional was it for those that had first-hand information, listening to those cries from members of our communities, the farming community, in terms of what they've raised, Chairperson. Chair, the issue that I just want to speak on is that, one, we can't wait to get the report and recommendations because the judge did indicate that they have not yet drawn them from the tribunal. If as soon as the recommendations and report from the tribunal are available, can they be shared with us so that they should be able to give us in depth in terms of what is it that we have to do in terms of addressing these particular issues that we are confronted with. Now, it is true from what was raised by Dr. Sophia. Just last week, I interacted with one person in Taung, where I come from, and was like, where he's working for, he was like, no, he's sick, he has to go to the doctor. And the farmer said, none of my people get sick, don't come back. So what you said, it's a lived reality that is there, that our people do live under, where if they are sick, they get evicted from farms. If they are unable to work, it doesn't matter for how long have they worked in those particular farms, they get evicted from farms. And one, got banned during the failed fires, having worked in that particular farm for the whole 5 years. After getting banned, that was actually it. He then lost his job. So there are so many challenges that farm workers, farm dwellers are confronted with, and we tend to turn a blind eye on them. which then is a very serious problem because it's just so many things that our people really go through. Now, Judge, you did mention about the 192 HHP that are in use in South Africa and banned everywhere. Do we have a sense at the moment how many tons were important in the country that they can still be traced and destroyed because these are normally used in private farms, in farms where there's no entry by any other person? Do we know so that we can give the relevant authorities to say, here are some of the these banned pesticides that we still see them in South Africa. Let's go hunt them down and get them destroyed. And obviously, as you said, they can't be destroyed in the rivers, in the seas. We'll have to find a better way of getting them destroyed because once you destroy them in that way, you are actually affecting something else. So do we have a sense, Judge, in terms of what will happen? And I agree that South Africa does have good laws, but that are not implemented. If we become signatories to a number of conventions and we're not enforcing such, it's as good as not being signatories to them. Now, my concern is that when you started, I think when the commissioner from the South African Human Rights started, she raised something about environmental racism. I thought I didn't hear her right, but having listened to what the judge said and what Dr. Sophia said, indeed, I heard her right that this is environmental racism because all of these pesticides are then given to farm workers to be able to utilize them for spraying and this and that. And they are the ones who get affected. They are the ones that these pesticides are kept in the storerooms where they stay. So for me, this is not just about agriculture. This requires a multi-sectoral approach from the Department of Labor and Employment, Agriculture, Home Affairs, Health, and the Rural Development and Land Reform, including Home Affairs, because either some of these people would be foreign nationals that would then be forced to make sure that they do all of those things, because even if they die, it's just like they've died. So for me, I think it warrants a multi-sectoral approach that we really need to look into. But now, Dr. Sophia said, we need to have alternative ways of growing food. Now, I want to ask on the side of the department, are we ready? Do we have alternative ways of growing food, or we must just give up? Because we would say food insecurity, these people are contributing to the food security of the country, but if they are doing that in a manner that is not healthy to the environment, to the workers, that they are the ones responsible there, what is it that you think we must do from the side of the Department of Agriculture in dealing with these? Because some of the things we agreed to have them banned as early as in February 2025. And what is it that you have done to see to it? I'm talking to the Department of Agriculture to say that they have then adopted the regenerative agriculture, because this was spoken about in February. But what practical steps have we seen in order to make sure that indeed regenerative agriculture comes into play there, Chair? So, Chairperson, I don't want to say a lot. I think one will raise a lot as soon as the report is available, which would have recommendations, and then from the side, we should make a very serious recommendation in terms of how do we deal with that. But lastly, the Department of Agriculture lacks, they do not have extension services. They do not have veterinary services, enough veterinary services. We have a crisis now with the foot and mouth disease, where they want to deploy veterinarians to every option. They are unable to do that because of not having enough vets there appointed by the department. Extension services, those that would be able to go and advise smallholder farmers in terms of best agricultural practices that they must do. Now, I want to ask the third thing to say, if the department is failing with, just smallholder farmers to give them such support, what will it take for the department to ensure that it also goes into privately owned farms and make sure that this human rights abuse that we see in privately owned farms do not continue, that there are systems in place that they have to put as a department to ensure that we deal with such human rights violations that we see in privately owned farms. In closing, Chairperson, last year, I think in the last term, we went on an oversight, living conditions on farm workers and farm dwellers. It was exceptionally bad. And with what you are saying, Judge, and your team, those are some of the things that we observed also in the last term, and nothing has been done. You will come here, make us cry, because of the presentations that you are making, but there is no will from the side of government to ensure that all of these things are dealt with and that our people are protected. But we'll try to keep on raising whatever that we want to raise. But Chairperson, thank you very much for the time, and the team. Thank you very much, the People's Tribunal on the AgroToxins and the South African Human Rights. It's exceptionally a good work that we have done. The only thing that is left is for us to see how do we push for the implementation of some of the recommendations that we did. Exceptionally good work that we done. Thanks very much, and I can understand. I got so emotional when you were presenting, and I can imagine how you guys really felt when for the first time you were hearing some of these things from the farm workers and farm dwellers. Thank you very much for the good work and continue doing that work. Thank you.
Honorable Trip.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the presenters. First of all, I do want to say that it is a concern that we as a country appear to have tolerance or allowance for products that are banned elsewhere, and the numbers in that regard are of serious concern. I want to appreciate the feedback and the humane understanding and sharing of the conclusions or the feedback that the panelists derived from their interaction with vulnerable people, especially farm workers and their families in particular. It makes us as legislators need to understand that we need to do a whole lot more about protecting everybody in the food production chain. I wanted to make a few comments, Chair, if I may, around the issue of fragmentation of legislation or implementation or application of legislation. I spent my life being a farmer and applying some of these products, but I also spent 2 years recently, not as a farmer, but working with emerging and commercial Black farmers in the citrus industry. And I want to say that there are protocols with regard to the production of food for export that are very stringent. And I had first-hand experience with those protocols. First of all, on-farm experience, and then in pack houses, etc. And the on-farm experience is that if you are exporting food anywhere in the world, you have to comply with one, training of farm workers and make sure that that training is recorded, provision of ablutions on farms, provision of cleaning and washing and facilities to decontaminate, provision of protective clothing and protective environment where spraying is being done with mechanical implements. And then with pack houses, there's also the compliance issues where the fruit is actually tested. We have the Perishable Products Export Control Board that tests all fruit and all food that is being exported. So I am really concerned, listening to this report, that it appears that the fragmentation of legislation and the protocols that are required for production of export food are not being applied at the production of food for local consumption. And that's probably where the biggest area of concern is, because, you know, exporters have to comply with all those protocols that I've just mentioned, and residue contamination, because there are massive trade barriers by competing countries, especially in the European Union, that would love to find fruit or food that is contaminated with illegal products, because that would suit their trade barrier agenda against South Africa. But it brings me to the production of food for local consumption, where I think the greatest gap is. And I'm not saying that exporters are not guilty of some of the contraventions that have been highlighted here. But when it comes to local food production, they're much less stringent tests. And, you know, when it comes to adequate labeling, you cannot sell a product that's not adequately labeled in the registered or formal market. So all products that are sold in the registered or formal market needs to be adequately labeled. That's the first thing. The second thing is the problem comes when people are decanting, and decantation obviously takes place with illicit products, where people call them all sorts of colloquial names, and then people buy them on the black market or through the informal channels. That's a major problem, and we as a committee are going to have to seriously look at the decanting of HHPs, because then there's no control. I have two questions. Did the panel interview farmers, both small-scale, commercial, and exporters? And did you conduct oversight or spot checks on any farms to corroborate and to see for yourselves whether these practices were indeed broad-scale? And then my second question is, uncontrolled or improper use of insecticides and HHPs results in multi-chemical resistant pests or multi-drug resistant parasites in the agricultural sector. And did the panel do anything about oversighting proper use of registered HHPs and animal health medication? Because this is where a major area of risk is, where people are not using products properly, and you end up with multi-drug or multi-chemical resistant pests that require more and more chemicals to treat them. So those are my two questions. Namely, did you investigate on-farm application and practices? And two, have you looked into uncontrolled and use of chemicals? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Trolip. I'm sorry, I had a challenge here. Honorable Okamp, and then Honorable Davids, followed by Honorable Mukutama.
And Dalane.
Oh, and Dalane, the last. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Thank you also for the presentations. Chairperson, I agree with Honorable Mtweri. This was a very emotional presentation that we saw. And if you listen to that, you can't help but feel emotional. But I think it is very important that when we make decisions or when we discuss the solutions on this, the emotions must be set aside and we must become pragmatic in order to get to what we can do to cancel out problems that there might be. I would just like to say that obviously, we heard firstly that the pesticides that was responsible for the killing of those children, and it is very important that we must make this distinction. Those pesticides came from across the borders, not from in our country. It came in illegally, and it was not pesticides that were used in the agricultural sector, whether it be formal or informal sector. Whether it be by small-scale farmers, upcoming farmers, or commercial farmers. Those pesticides, according to my knowledge, came in from other countries illegally, and as Honourable Trollip then said, they were then packed in smaller quantities and then distributed, and that is where that problem came in, and we need to see what we can do to address that. Chairperson, to ban pesticides might not be the solution that we all want, because it might lead to different problems. And to say that pesticides itself is the reason is not, according to me, true. It is the people that are using pesticides wrongly that is the reason. We know that we've got motor vehicle accidents that kills people on a daily basis. And although it is the car that does the actual impact, it is the people that are driving those vehicles that are responsible for the deaths that occur. We cannot, due to the fact that cars lead to deaths, now all of a sudden go and ban all cars. It's just not pragmatic. And that brings me back to what I've said in the beginning. We've also got to look for a pragmatic approach when it comes to these pesticides. Chairperson, I'm going through my notes. And I appreciate the meeting that took place with the stakeholders, but I also want to just ask if they can give us information on the experts that they consulted so that we know as a committee who they were. Then I would also like to ask whether they have consulted with experts on the other side of the spectrum so that we don't only have a one-sided opinion of this. Have they spoken to as Honourable Trollip also asked, people in the agricultural sector exporting goods and what the impact on that might be? Have they consulted with the formal agricultural sector, like the agricultural unions that are there representing the people in the agricultural industry, the likes of Agri SA and SAI and other agricultural organizations, because I think that they would also be able to give us a lot of information on this. I agree that measures to ensure that correct protection is used must be there and must be enforced. It's like traffic rules with the car. We will have way more accidents if there are not traffic rules guiding and telling us how we must operate with our vehicles. And that must be exactly the same in any industry and with anything that might cause a hazard. And if we are going to enforce those rules and implement them, it will definitely have an effect. If we are enforcing traffic rules, the amount of accidents are less. And that is exactly what we must do here. We must see to it that there are better education for everybody that works with these pesticides, because it will not be pragmatic to all of a sudden just cancel this. It will lead to crisis in our agricultural sector with regards to food production, food security, jobs that will be at risk. So we've got to see how we can manage this in order to have everybody that comes involved or in contact with this to better know how to do this. It is very important that everybody must adhere to the PPE requirements for anybody that handles these materials. If you are going to handle substances that are maybe posing a risk to your health, you must do so with the correct equipment. And that again brings me back to the enforceability thereof and making sure that it happens. Coming back to what I said with regards to the pesticides, herbicides that came in from across the borders illegally, that shone the spotlight on what we are discussing here. But for many decades, as one of the presenters said, these pesticides have been used in our agricultural sector. And without the spotlight being zoomed in on it, because there has not been in the past any happenings like the one that we saw where a lot of children died. So, yeah, the other option or other thing that was also mentioned is medical care. I think it is very important that people that work with us or people that get in contact with us must know the procedures that they must take should they get exposed to this on an unhealthy basis. And hospitals needs to be prepared. If you've got a hospital in a rural area where there's a lot of farms that use these pesticides, you must make sure that the nurses and the doctors and personnel at that hospital know how to treat this, know how to be, as first responders, quick on their reaction to this. Chairperson, with regards to what this committee has resoluted in the past, I might be wrong, but I don't think that this committee made a decision that this should be banned. I think that the decision was not on a gradual ban, but rather that we must look into the possibility thereof. So this committee has not decided upon that yet, but we've decided that we must look into the different options. And I think that is also very important for us to look at. If you again come to the very emotional example that Judge Pillay used, or it might be Dr. Kisting, I'm not sure now, of the father that wanted to clean out his house, and that led to a baby's death and another one's death. That is a perfect example of somebody working with this pesticide that obtained it in a way that he obviously shouldn't have, because a person that does not know how to work with this pesticide should not be able to handle that. And unfortunately, that father, with all good intentions that he had on cleaning his house, then his actions via the pesticides led to the death of children. But again, it was mainly, according to me, due to the fact that that person did not know exactly what he was working with. And he did not have the relevant training to know that he should not do that. And I think in a lot of instances, people like that did not get this pesticides via the correct channels. Like we saw with these children that died, pesticides that were sold in spaza shops in a totally illegal manner. And to then come, sorry, Chairperson, let me just put this off, and to then come and expose the whole farming industry and agricultural sector in the country because people are doing things that they should not do is very dangerous, and again takes us away from the pragmatic approach that we should take with regards to this. I agree with Judge Pillay that categorizing must be done. We must look at the waste management of this and make sure that it does not happen. And then we also must make sure that information is shared when incidents like this take place, Chairperson. And it is very important that we all must work together to look for an approach that will work, because our agricultural sector cannot just all of a sudden not make use of this. It will have a huge impact on the agricultural sector, on job creation, on food security in our country, on the economical growth. So we need to get a balanced approach on this. But thank you very much for the opportunity, Chairperson. And sorry for my phone ringing. I should have put it on silent. Sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Oakham. It's your apologies is accepted. The following is Honorable David.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. Good morning, all the people that did the presentations. I also want to welcome the Chair. I actually am this presentation is very interesting because I loved it. And I want to disagree with Member Oakham and agree that yes, what member that we say we must. My question is, did the panel meet with the farm owners? Because training, Chair, is not happening, especially in the area where the presentation was mentioned, the Cape Winelands area. in the wine farms. There's no training happening to the farm workers and the farm dwellers, Chair. They are daily working with these chemicals, but they have no training. And it's because of a lack of knowledge that father took those chemicals to his house. And also, Chair, farmers care more about the export of the fruit, and they obey with all the legislation on what they must do to export the fruit, but they don't care about the farm workers and the farm dwellers. It's a reality. It's a living testimony in Western Cape, especially on the wine farms. Laborers don't have PPP on, clothes on. They don't wear masks. They don't get training on how to. They just said, go and take that tractor and do your work. Go and spray the chemicals, but they don't get any training. So I welcome this presentation, Chair, and it's really by time that that we wait for the recommendations from this committee, but it's time, Chair, that we really need to look after our farm workers and farm dwellers that is actually bringing the food security, that is actually doing the work, the actual work on the farms to make sure that we have the fruits, we have the vegetables and everything. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I want to make a follow-up, Chairperson, if you can allow me.
So no, I'm not done, Chair. Chair, my other
My
question is,
apologies,
did the committee meet with the health department? Because also in this province, Chair, there's no clinics in the rural areas. All of them were closed by the provincial parliament. Thank you.
Chairperson, are you there?
Honorable Davids, are you done?
Yes, Chair, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk. I don't know whether I'm talking to myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Honorable Mqwethama.
Thank you, Chair, and also to the Human Rights Commission and the other experts who has provided us with detailed information on this scourge. I must also just commend the Human Rights Commission for persistently reminding us and educating us on this matter. Chair, it is really, really painful that there are some members of this committee who don't seem to understand the need for justice for the most vulnerable of our members of society. Farm workers in this country are semi-slaves who labor under very difficult conditions. And now we get the sense that there's a slow genocide which is going on farms based on the use of this particular pesticide. Honorable members, the Human Rights Commission and the panel of experts have done their job. It is up to us now to make sure that we protect our people, and we have a legislative mandate to do so. We cannot hesitate. We cannot talk about many years to come before we ban some of these clearly dangerous pesticides. Other countries which are less fortunate than us have done so because they take seriously the health of their citizens. Here in South Africa, because profits are more important than people, and these particular people are already the most vulnerable, the most excluded and marginalized. Their health is not considered seriously. We as members of parliament, we shall be aiding and abetting this injustice if we don't act quite decisively and timelessly. So, Chair, I do think that we must wait for the report of the panel, but subsequent to that, we as a committee must determine a process to amend legislation, to strengthen legislation, to make sure that transgressors are being seriously punished. We can't continue as if it's business as usual. There are attempts which are unfortunate to try to blame the victims who have died. We are talking about children dying here. It is shocking that some members do not understand the seriousness of the death of Black children. We have a responsibility to protect everyone, including the most vulnerable. We already have people dying from exposure to this particular pesticide, and there's some resistance from some members to ban this substance immediately. We cannot accept that. We must act with love for our people. We must act with justice, both environmental and for our people. And we can assist that process by doing the right thing of banning these pesticides with immediate effect. We can no longer wait and waste more time to expose our people to these hazardous substances which have a serious effect on their health, including, as we know, people getting murdered. We are complicit by lack of action in these deaths, which are continue to happen on our farms and including on spaza shops, as we are failing as legislators to legislate properly to protect our people. It is on us. We must take big responsibility because we are allowing profits to trump the interests of our people and to trump the human rights of the nation. It cannot be allowed. It must be stopped with immediate effect. And that is the only way we can make sure that our people are protected, by protecting them ourselves, because we have the instruments to do so. We're just not implementing them. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkutama. May I have Honorable Ndalane? Honorable Mutisi, do you want to come back?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Ndalane?
No, thanks, Chairperson, and good morning to everybody. Chairperson, I think indeed the presentation was so provoking and emotional, and we really appreciate it as the portfolio committee, and look forward to engage with the department on the way forward in the control of the harmful pesticide. I think Honorable Mtweli has covered a lot of issues, and as a portfolio committee, we will look forward in receiving those reports together with the recommendations. Thanks very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Ndalane. Honorable Trolip, is that a legacy hand?
It's a legacy hand, Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Honorable Mtwisi, please come back.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think it's very insensitive of a DA member of Parliament, Honorable Ogam, to want to come here and tell us how to react when our Black people on daily basis are affected by these pesticides in farms on daily basis, killing them, making them infertile, giving them skin problems, giving them early cancer and severe abortions. And he must come and tell us that must not be emotional. The fact that one is emotional is that it cannot be accepted that Black lives, it it looks like to some people they do not matter. So please focus on your inputs and don't tell me in particular how to react, because even if I did indicate how emotive this subject is, I never, in my input, I made input as if I was not emotional. So please don't do that. I just wanted to really call this member to order like that. The last thing, Chairperson, is on the issue of banning, that he says there was never a decision on the banning of some of those pesticides by the committee. Now, I want to understand if indeed there was never such a decision, why are we here for? Because we raised that thing. We raised that all of these things that are banned, that are dumped into South Africa, why are we using them? It doesn't matter if he's saying we must protect jobs, people are going to lose jobs and this. How important are the jobs as compared to protecting the lives of our people? So I just want the chair to remind us there on that decision, if indeed there was not, so that we are able to take a decision like that. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, will you allow me to just quickly come in there, please?
Okay, Honorable Ocamp.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, through you to the Honorable Montgomery, I never said that we should not be emotional about this. I said that this is very emotional, and I do understand that. What I said is that we must also be very pragmatic about this. We cannot only be emotional, although we all are. It is very emotional when children die, whether they are black children or white children or colored children, it doesn't matter. When children die, when people get exposed and get sick and get cancer, it is very emotional. And that is not what I said. So please don't put words in my mouth. With regards to the decision that was taken, what I said is that we have not decided as an official decision by this committee that it should be banned. We have decided that we should look into the possibility thereof. So this is what this meeting is about, to give us more information so that when this committee then comes and have to make a decision or a proposal at a later stage, that we do it with all the information at hand. And I would definitely urge this committee that we do that, obviously objectively, and that we also get the information and presentations maybe from agricultural unions, from farmers in the agricultural sector, all farmers, again, not white farmers, not black farmers, all farmers, small, medium, large scale farmers, everybody, so that we can make an objective decision. But the point that I wanted to make was that this committee has not made a decision yet. It presented its urging to get to a point where we can investigate this, and this is what we are doing now. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Ocamp. I take it that, honorable members, you have made your comments. We will allow, I would like to hand over to back to Commissioner Ntuli and the team. But after that, we would like to hear what the department is saying. So DG and the DDGs that are here, please, I would like you to come in after.
Honorable Chair, I think you didn't see my hand.
I didn't see it because when I counted the names, you had not raised your hand. Okay, you have time to speak, Honorable Smith.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I want to propose that the committee also put an invite out to the agricultural industry, also to get a presentation from their side that will give us an informed a situation where we can make a decision that we consider all sides. Thank you.
Hi, Michael.
Commissioner Ntuli and the team.
Chairperson, I'm tempted to come in.
Okay, come in.
Yes. Chairperson, we have South African Human Rights Commission as an establishment in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa.
Yes.
And I don't know why it looks like people want to then second guess whatever that is coming through this presentation to a point where they want to suggest that we need to bring the other side to come. I agree the issue here, there were clear terms of reference in terms of what has to be done. And they followed what was expected of them to do. They engaged with survivors, people that were affected. Now, if you then say we must call the other side, what are you calling the other side for? Because there's someone who says, I've been working at a farm. Here is proof that I've been working at a farm. They had a 2-day session with them. Now, when they bring the report to the committee, who must then say, wait with your report. Let's go get to the other side. What is that thing? There's no other side that we're going to get here. There's a report that is before us. We have to look into that report, make our inputs on that report about what people have raised in that particular report. If there's something else that has to be established, there has to be new terms that should then be given to the Human Rights Commission to say, extend your scope, look into this, bring perpetrators also. Because here it's like the voice of the victims is not enough. We must also get the voice of the perpetrators. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Montwedi. I would like us to take the responses from the Human Rights Commission and the team. And then, because I have heard even in the beginning of the presentation in February when the Human Rights Commission came to make a presentation, this proposal of banning was put forward, and we proposed, the minister was there, and he raised the very same things that Honorable Ocamp is raising. I know that Honorable Trolip also said we must be cautious, we must caution on how we want to take this decision. But this decision, it's supposed to be taken by this committee. And I think that now that we have had the Human Rights Commission coming for the second time to make presentations, it's enough for us to be able to take a decision. I also want to say that, colleagues, when the issue of the pesticides came and became a very huge issue in the country, the other organizations that we're talking about, have not come forward to say, can we come and make a presentation and explain as to how things are happening, So I want us to take the responses from the team that came to make a presentation, Commissioner Ntuli, Judge Pillay, and Dr. Sterling, to be able to give us their responses. And I think we have said, I heard you saying you would like to have the recommendations that came from the public hearings of the team, so that we can then be able to make up our minds. But the proposal on banning is on the table, colleagues. Honorable Commissioner Ntuli, please come back with your team.
Chairperson, sorry, may you allow me just one comment there, please?
No, Honorable Ocamp, we will not take any additional comment for now. We will we'll listen to the responses from the team, and then if we still have time, we'll then take your comment.
Chairperson, with all due respect, this is not something that the team have to respond on. It's just in reply to what was said. And I think it is very much important for the decorum of this committee that you just give me a second, because what I'm about to say is very important on how this committee will be perceived out there.
No, it's fine. You'll get the opportunity at the end when the colleagues have made the responses to all the honorable members.
Chairperson, I don't want to get into an argument with you. It's fine. I'll abide by your decision.
No, you are, Honorable Ocamp, Honorable Ocamp, you are getting into arguments. We can't allow the situation. I am saying to you, no, you can't tell me.
I'm abiding by your decision, man.
Yes,
I'm saying I'm abiding by your decision, then you accuse me of getting into an argument. What's that?
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Come on.
Commissioner,
please be objective, man. Please be
No,
objected.
Come on,
No,
Honorable
I must
Ocampo.
tell you to
No,
come on
this is a
because you
meeting.
accuse me of
No,
something
you
when I
can't
say
do
I
that.
abide by your decision.
No, this
I
is
say
a
I abide by
meeting,
your
Ocampo,
decision.
and I'm chairing the
No,
meeting.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, you
No, it
can't.
doesn't
You
work like
can't
that.
behave like that. That's disrespectful.
Oh, but
And you
order.
can't disrespect
The
me
chairperson
here.
can
You are also
disrespect
No,
disrespecting.
you
Let's
can't
leave it at that.
disrespect me. Ocampo,
Well,
you
you are
can't disrespect
disrespecting
me.
me, man, but let's carry on. Let's carry on. It's fine. I just said that I'm
No, you can't
abiding by your
disrespect
decision
me.
and you attacked me.
No, I said to you, I'll give you an opportunity at the end. Don't disrespect me.
But yet you gave Mr. Montvedi an
You are not the
opportunity.
chairperson.
It's fine.
I'm chairing this
Order,
meeting.
Ocampo.
I'm chairing
Order,
this
Ocampo.
meeting.
You are out of order, Ocampo.
Then do it properly, ma'am. Then do it properly.
You are out of
I can't
order.
be taught by you, Ocampo, how to chair a meeting.
You are out of order, Ocampo.
Let's carry on, ma'am. I said I
Respect
abide
the
by your
chairperson.
decision. You attacked me. It's not acceptable.
Respect the chairperson. You are out of order.
Commissioner Ntuli and the team.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much to the honorable members for their largely positive reflections and responses to our presentation. Indeed, this is an emotive topic that has severe impacts on the most vulnerable in our society, and we appreciate the manner in which you have taken up our presentation. Chairperson, I would like to hand over to my colleagues to answer some of the questions with me, but perhaps before I do so, I would like to also support your invitation to the Department of Agriculture to also come in after our responses. Just to remind the chairperson as well as the honorable members, as well as our guests, when we met in February 4, indeed, the Portfolio Committee, together with the Minister of Agriculture, considered and agreed that in principle, HHPs, particularly Tabifos, should be banned. The Minister of Agriculture in particular agreed that these would be banned immediately if they were alternatives. So the discussion then focused on the question of alternatives, and there was an in-principle agreement that through the Department of Agriculture, a multi-sectoral team would be established with a view to ensure that research is conducted on alternatives to Tabifos and other HHPs, which would assist the country towards a total ban of pesticides. I also agree with the Honorable Chairperson that the Portfolio Committee, as legislators, have the power and the responsibility to be decisive with regards to the banning of HHPs. And therefore, as far as there is confusion and debates on what the position of the Portfolio Committee is, perhaps it is an opportunity for the Portfolio Committee to restate its position. I will also request through yourself, Chairperson, my honorable colleagues, to speak to the dangers and the caution against comparing the experiences, particularly of farm workers, when it comes to HHPs with car accidents, as raised by one of the honorable members. Judge Pillay did indicate in her presentation that the South African state has a legal obligation, both in terms of national and international law, to ban pesticides. And this becomes the differentiating factor between the use of HHPs and the driving of cars. Further to that, Honorable Chairperson, we have previously warned and cautioned against statements that suggest that the deaths of children, particularly in Naledi in 2024, were caused by Tabifos that came out of illegally into the country out of our neighboring countries. Our position remains the same, Honorable Chairperson. We wish to emphasize caution against such narratives. One, because they are yet unfounded, but secondly, because they perpetuate a narrative which leads to xenophobic sentiments that suggest that foreign nationals, particularly spaza shop owners, are illegally bringing in Tabifos which is affecting children, particularly in townships and other similarly structured communities. This is lacking in evidence, and it perpetuates a narrative that distances us from our neighbors. So we would like to re-emphasize our caution against the use of such narrative. With that, Honorable Chairperson, and through yourself, I would perhaps like to invite Heidi, the coordinator first of the tribunal, to brief honorable members of some of the organizations and parties that were engaged towards the tribunal, including the Ministry of Agriculture, which was invited to the tribunal and were unable to attend. Thereafter, if Professor London is able to come in, I'm not sure if he is in, and after him, it will be Dr. Kistings, and thereafter, Judge Navi will close us off. Through yourself, Chairperson, I would like to invite the team in that order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Judge Pillay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Commissioner Ntuli asked whether you will allow her to call the next few speakers. Firstly, it's our coordinator of this tribunal, Heidi, who will be in a position to tell us where the invitations were sent out to representatives of owners and politicians and members of the Department of Agriculture. And then we do have an expert waiting to speak, Professor Leslie London from University of Cape Town, who could tell us more in respect of the questions you asked about who are the experts that we consulted or met with. And I would come in with a few concluding remarks and emphasize that we have not worked on the recommendations as yet. However, we listened very carefully. I listened very carefully to everything that has been asked so far. I'm addressing the one question: who are the experts we consulted?
Judge Pillay.
Yes.
Let me then follow your recommendation with Commissioner Ntuli that we allow the coordinator to speak first, and then you'll come at the end.
Thank you.
And the two team members that you have. Yeah.
Thanks.
Can the coordinator unmute herself?
Hello, hi, thank you, Chair. Heidi Swanby, the coordinator of SAPToA. So maybe just to say how SAPToA came about, and that it was a very grassroots-driven process that was initiated by farm workers and affected peoples who had for many years felt voiceless. And after trying a lot of different ways of engaging with authorities, just finding that they weren't being heard. So the idea emerged that they would like to collect case studies and consult experts and find a way to bring their issues to the authorities. So as we've heard, there were not consultations with farmers or really people in power. The idea was for people who are voiceless and powerless to have an opportunity to have their voices heard and to seek justice. And that process took 2 years, and it entailed collecting case studies from the grassroots, and also interacting with many experts in our country who've been doing research for decades on these issues, and put together this tribunal. And the issue of power imbalances was very much in our minds for the entire process of who never gets the space to be heard. So that's who came together. I don't know if that answers your questions in terms of who was there. Then we will send you a list of the experts, and we can also send you their findings. This will all come with the reports. And Dr. Leslie London, who was one of our key supporters, is here today, and he can also speak to the expertise that guided the tribunal. I don't know if that answers your questions, Commissioner Ntuli, if I'm filling in the gap that you were hoping I would fill in.
Yes, thank you very much, Heidi. And if Prof. London is here, he may then come in. Thank you, Heidi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. I will respond to some of the questions. I'm going to switch off my camera because I think my bandwidth is not very strong. So it's not any disrespect to the committee. I've been working on the issue of pesticides for the last 30 years or more. So I am familiar with the question of street pesticides being used in ways that they are not intended. So I'm going to respond to some of the comments around raised by Honourable Member Okamp and others. Firstly, I want to say that the problem of tuberphos poisoning is not new. It's been documented in a review conducted of children who died, who were subject to autopsy at one of the mortuaries in Cape Town. There was a published paper which showed that of the 52 children in whom pesticide poisoning was suspected, tuberphos was responsible for the death of half of those children. And that's during the period of 2010 to 2019. So this is not new. I do want to point out that aldicarb, which is also a pesticide which was used similar to tuberphos in granules for control of rats, which was banned by the department in 2016, was reported as the cause of one death in that series. So we are talking about a big problem that has been unaddressed for a long time, and the terrible deaths of the children in Naledi are really the tip of what's probably an iceberg. The National Institute for Communicable Disease is responsible for what's called notifiable medical conditions under the National Health Act. They receive notifications of tuberculosis, measles, but they also receive notifications of pesticide poisoning. They report that in 2024, in the same year that the children died, they had 482 notifications of children with pesticide poisoning. We don't know how many of those are tuberphos, but that signals that we have a big problem with the stewardship of pesticides in South Africa. I then want to talk about the question of whether the pesticides come over the border or not. Firstly, I want to say that when aldicarb was highlighted as a problem previously in the previous decades, the same narrative emerged that this was not a problem of South African suppliers, it was a problem of aldicarb coming from over the borders. We weren't really presented with evidence to that effect, but we know that after aldicarb was banned, it has not been a problem of causing deaths of children. So if it was coming over the borders, we would still expect to see aldicarb deaths amongst our children. The second point I want to make is that you will remember in 2021, the Cornubia fire, the UPL pesticide warehouse in Cornubia, that stocked numerous pesticides, including tuberphos. So tuberphos is available in the country. And as I understand, the Department of Agriculture's own inspections have revealed that at least 2 of the suppliers of tuberphos have not been compliant with how the tuberphos is distributed. So it's not really possible for us to say that the stewardship being offered of tuberphos in South Africa is adequate to prevent poisonings, and to assert that it's coming from over the border, I think, needs to be supported by evidence. So I would suggest to the Portfolio Committee that if that assertion is made again, it should be subject to independent scrutiny rather than simply an assertion of something. The third point about banning versus not banning. We know that the Department of Agriculture, its own policy, recognizes that a range of highly hazardous pesticides should be subject to stringent measures, including banning. In 2010, it issued its the pesticide management policy, and includes in that the likelihood that pesticides that are highly hazardous pesticides, of which turbifos is clearly one, should be subject to the measures, and it includes banning and restriction. Okay, and restriction is to say we won't ban it, but we will restrict the conditions under which it is used. However, it's not clear that the Department of Agriculture is capable of ensuring that conditions under which it is used is not going to cause adverse health effects. I want to point out that the department developed this policy in 2010. It issued a notice 12 years later in 2022 indicating it would take action on HHPs. It then issued the regulation in 2023 in August. And even though the regulation was issued in August, the agricultural sector did not implement anything. Nothing was implemented. In fact, in September 2024, CropLife supplied, well, there was a meeting hosted by CropLife with the agricultural industry and the registrar where this measure for restriction was discussed. But industry were then invited, the agricultural sector was then invited to make submissions for how this regulation would be implemented. And that was in September 2024. And in October 2024, the children in Naledi died. So I believe this has not been taken seriously. We've had this policy on the books since 2010. A notice is issued of intent in 2022. The regulation comes out in 23. 2024, industry is still talking about how it's going to implement, and children die. Children have been dying for a long time, and I think the evidence before the commission has indicated how hazardous pesticides are. In the regard, we had an example from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a small country, mainly agricultural, which has a severe problem with deaths from pesticides due to suicide. It's been widely published. It's well recognized in the literature. They adopted a policy to ban the most highly hazardous pesticides. They reduced death rates from suicide by 70%. There was no displacement to other means of suicide. They reduced people dying by targeting the most hazardous pesticides. They did not choose the option of trying to manage the pesticides better because they realized they could not do that. That hadn't worked in the past, and this is confirmed by communication from the former registrar of pesticides in Sri Lanka, who now works at the United Nations Environment Programme. So trying to restrict use of a highly hazardous pesticide, which turbifos is, requires a lot of effort and infrastructure, and we haven't proved, our track record hasn't been able to maintain that up to now. The Honourable Member Oka made an analogy of a car. I think that's not the correct analogy. Firstly, you'd have to make an analogy to a car that's very dangerous, and should everyone be allowed to drive a really dangerous car without measures? Probably not. But the analogy really is to the example of Sri Lanka, where suicide was a big problem. It's a use of a pesticide for which it's not intended. They could not control it through better regulation or better controls, and they decided to ban it, and they prevented people from dying. The last question about the impact on agriculture. It's true, it will have an impact on agriculture. But it's not clear that there aren't alternatives. The World Health Organization, the Food and Agriculture Organization do provide support for that. I do want to point out that the agricultural sector has been aware for a long time of something called the European Green Deal, which basically is going to expect a reduction of highly hazardous pesticides by at least 50%. And CropLife brought out a report in 2025 where they considered the impact of these measures on agriculture in South Africa. So they're fully aware that highly hazardous pesticides are going to be reduced. This particular report did not actually address turbifos, for example. It addressed other kinds of pesticides. So it is true that there needs to be a consideration of the impact on agriculture, but the agricultural sector is well aware of this and should be able to anticipate and find alternatives. The fact is that people have been dying from pesticides and particularly turbifos, and the measures that are available to us should be appropriate to that problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, London, for the clarity on the questions that were forwarded by the honorable members. Commissioner, are your members of your team done now?
Honorable Chair, perhaps if Dr. Kisting can come in and thereafter Judge Navi, and with their submissions, they can also offer their closing remarks if there are no other questions or comments from the honorable members. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner, can we go to Dr. Stein?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and honorable members. I want to just add to what Ms. Heidi Swanby and Prof. London had to say, that the tribunal invited our government departments, agriculture, health, Department of Employment and Labor, and several more. And I think what was really one of the telling and very sad observations, that the chairs that were there put for them at the tribunal were empty. So we missed the presence of the government or alternatives who could have been there, because we could have really extended our understanding by hearing directly the lived experience of people that seldom have a voice. So I want to make that clear. And then I think Heidi has covered that. I think we didn't, the tribunal didn't particularly cover the industry, and I think that is something that I think we as a tribunal cannot specifically dealt with, but I think members of the portfolio committee have dealt with that as well. Honorable members, I am in a way, I came here with great hope that the legislators will do something meaningful and fast. We will certainly complete our report. We will make our recommendations, and we will then present to you. We are very, very mindful that and supportive that this is a multi-sectoral approach, that different government departments is involved. And I want to very briefly give you just the example. I was deeply, deeply involved in the process that led to the prohibition of the use of asbestos, which you know causes very virulent cancers and many other problems to the health of our people. And it was very much a parliamentary, multi-departmental approach, but affected communities through the environmental impact of asbestos dumps and so on, and affected workers through the asbestos cement industry and, you know, all those different sectors of the community, of our economy, was very, very much part of this. And so similarly, I want to very much advocate for really urgent action on this. And I think Professor Leslie London has very indicated what has been happening with regards to the policy that the government has in some of the steps and decisions taken, and how to act on it, so that this tardiness, this lack of acting, is very surprising in the face of so many deaths. So one of the important points that community members and that affected workers and those exposed to the UPL and those with job losses and those who've become landless and homeless and educationless, what they say, they want to be included in the process. So I think that it is very important that parliamentary asbestos process that was so inclusive is something we can emulate to also arrive at a way where we don't treat this as something that's adversarial or conflictual, but that we have a moral and an ethical and a legislative imperative to do something about it, because the government has the power to do something. So we appeal to you to use that power in the interest of your people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kissing, through you, Honorable Chair. Then Judge Pillay will come in. Thank you so much.
Judge Pillay.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Well, I truly appreciate the engagement by each of the honorable members of this committee. It's important that we hear you remind us that we should look for pragmatic solutions. But I wish you had given us some idea of what's in your mind when you speak of pragmatic situations instead of banning. Now, let me recall, we have not made a decision on the recommendations. I can't tell you we're going to be making a recommendation on total ban. We just reported to you that this call for ban is coming from many of the people we interviewed, and it's also been implemented in Europe where they've banned these products. So we hear all this, and then we hear you. So I wish you had given me some indication of what you mean by pragmatic. Because let me say quite bluntly that what we've seen of pragmatic steps so far in the name of food security, in the name of profit for farmers, is not to make any decision and to delay this over years and years and years. And we already have that on record for how many years, like from 2010. People have been working on this. We don't even have regulations adopted yet. There are draft regulations, and that has, I think, 23, and that has been postponed so far. So a great deal of inaction and not having to deal with the matter are not pragmatic solutions. And why is that? Because I know that each and every one of you values human life. So what we have on the one side is people are dying of these chemicals because of lack of information, little things about fulfilling the requirements of informed consumption. So they don't see labels. Even if I read these labels, they're all above my head. They're so technical. They don't tell me what would happen if I breathe that chemical. So that's what we're asking for, more protection measures, whether you approach it from an emotional point of view or a pragmatic point of view. Can we have suggestions and quick action, as Sophie said? That's where I am, and except to say how much we appreciate this dialogue with you, and we will work fast. You know, this is all new to me, this subject. I've been busy with international justice, so it's been a learning experience. And you know, I'm very used to sitting on the bench for more than 30 years as a judge and not sharing emotions. But these are emotional matters when people come before you and say, I made a complaint to my employer and then I was evicted. He or she had nowhere to go to, no job. So there's a lot of repercussions for workers who talk about these conditions. So that's why justice and accountability is needed. And it is an emotional matter when you're dealing with human life. Every one of us subscribes to the protection of human rights. We are an impartial panel. I want to assure you that we will take all factors into account. I personally want to look at the mass of documents filed by the experts and researchers because it came in a big bundle just before the hearing. And I promise that I will look into this question of yours on whether we heard from the employers and the farmers. I won't be surprised if they contribute to the solutions because they don't want their workers dead either. So clearly they have implemented measures and it's good to bring that out. Chair, thank you very much once again for giving us this audience. We are very privileged that you did so. And we will follow this up by sending you some of the things you asked for, such as the list of research done by experts, and of course, our report. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Judge Pillay. Commissioner Pillay, are you done now with the responses?
Honorable Chair, with the responses of the first round, yes, we are. The Honorable Chair had also invited the DG of the Department of Agriculture to come in, and we will wait in anticipation for the response as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I just want to remind members here of one of the decisions that we agreed upon at the end, which is also include the parts that the department, the responsibility that the department took to undertake. And I would like that when the department responds, here, they would then be able to give us a view of what they have done after their undertaking. And the last time when we were here, we had the minister with us when we discussed this matter. So in the last meeting, the department actually made a commitment to consult with other relevant departments and stakeholders, including the South African Human Rights Commission, regarding the banning of tabifas and other highly hazardous pesticides, the HHPs, in the country. So we will then expect that the department, when they respond through UDG, you will also talk as to what have you done since then, so that we have a view of where we should be going. The other thing is that, and maybe also check whether from the department side, you have already, the list of stakeholders that you are going to be able to engage in relation to the HHPs and tabifos in particular, because we cannot, close our eye or our ears from the cries of the vulnerable people. And I think we were, as we were speaking as honorable members and as we were asking questions, we were not very sure whether we have had in the team, the team led, the tribunal, the team led by Judge Pillay here, whether in their work do we have professionals. And we've had, and we know that we now have the judge here, we have Dr. Sophia, we also have Professor London and the others. And I think that we also have the Human Rights Commission here that has a responsibility to make sure that every South African is protected in terms of the human rights. So maybe the department must also tell us whether they have, in the meantime, have a task team that is going to that has been established that is going to deal with these issues, and if not, why not? But I don't want to take the attitude that you may not have started to do something. So I will want to allow you through the DG to be able to comment and respond to some of the issues that honorable members raised, in particular referring to the department. From the beginning, Honorable Mdwidi has had questions that were directly and directed to the department, and Honorable Sholip also.
Madam Chairperson, may I address you, please?
Not yet, Honorable Okam.
Well, then I'm rising on a point of order, Madam Chairperson.
What is your point of order?
My point of order is that you said that you give me an opportunity after the Commission has spoken. They have now finished the discussion, and I would just like to come back to the point that I want to make. It would be good if I can maybe do that before the department response, Chairperson, just on your recommendation of earlier.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, I want to thank Judge Pillay for her last comments, where she said that they will look into the fact that they must get the agricultural sector involved. I think that is very good. And I sincerely want to express my trust in Judge Pillay. She said that she was on the bench for 30 years. And I believe in her objectivity, and I believe that this is the right way to go about with something as sensitive and as emotional as this, that we get every role player in the industry. I would also like to make the suggestion to the Commission that they must also try to speak to distributors of these pesticides. I think that they can give us a lot of information. If we can maybe, I don't know whether those pesticides are all manufactured here, but if we can maybe also get the information from the manufacturers in order to get to a pragmatic solution. With regards to the pragmatic solutions, I have quoted some of the points that Judge Pillay has made with regards to how we can categorize it better, how we can do waste management better, sharing information, and I agree with all of that. And that is what we mean by getting to a pragmatic solution, where we firstly protect our people, our children, but also our jobs and our industries. And we must find the balance there. And I think in our quest to find the balance with protecting everybody and everyone involved, it is very important to also then get the opinions and the guidance of everybody involved in this. Just in comment to what Honorable Mtwedi said, Madam Chairperson, and that brings us on a very dangerous place. You refer to the farmers as the perpetrators. Whilst that has not been established, it has not been established that any farmer is a perpetrator willfully neglecting their people. That is not true. And if we are going to go into finding solutions and trying to be pragmatic, to accuse a certain group of people contributing to job creation and our economy as perpetrators, it shows the subjectivity with which this committee is then going to approach this. And I want you to caution everybody to be objective, to, although this is very emotional, not let emotions only guide us, but that we be fair, that we listen to everybody, get everybody's view, and make a proper informed decision in the interest of everybody. And to call people perpetrators is not going to assist with that. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable Okamp, you now have raised, you have responded to some of the comments that were made by other members, and I would like to give them, in particular, Honorable Mtwedi, the right to reply.
That's exactly what I asked initially, ma'am.
Chairperson, thanks very much for the opportunity. If on the one side, there's lives of our people, either black or white, and on the other side is about creation of jobs, it's about ensuring food security. The life of our people far outweighs what's on the left side. No one is saying we have to compromise food security. We speak of alternative ways. We speak of alternatives that are there in the market that they can be explored. Now, tell me, what alternatives do we have when a person is dead? None, at least according to me. There are no alternatives. So it's very insensitive of this honorable member of the DA to continue wanting to put on stage the lives of our people against whether people are contributing to the food security or creating jobs. It's very wrong. Now, we must not go into that terrain. The life of our people, the fact that they are at risk, far outweighs everything that we have raised. Now, I want to come to the last comment that I made. And I'm going to put this on record. I want anyone to follow it up and, take me on it. Mr. Choile from Taung in Mukasatu was working at a farm for 5 years. And I made an example. He got burned while they were while there was a fell fire at that farm. Immediately when he got burned, he was admitted in hospital. He was chased out. He's no longer employed. Now, am I wrong if I am to say that white farmer chased away that guy, dismissed him after the guy was incapacitated and cannot work? The commission raised an issue here. My apologies. They raised an issue about when you're too sick to work, you are evicted. There's so many people. Now, when those things are there, having been proven that that's what white people are doing, why should we be afraid of raising it? It's a fact. It's there. Now, anyone who has a different view from what I'm saying, also from what was said, that I made an example with someone in Majaning village in Taung. The person went to the guy and said, I'm not feeling well. I want to go to the doctor. The white farmer said, no one gets sick in any of my people that work for me. Don't come back. Go away. Am I wrong to be raising some of those things? Those things may be uncomfortable to you because they are perpetuated by white farmers in their private lands where they evict our black people. I'm not apologetic of that statement that I made. So where I am standing, Chairperson, I am...
Yes, as you close.
As I close, where I'm standing, we must go to a point where we take a decision on the penny, because the life of our people far outweighs anything that you will want to raise. Anything. This matter has been in the cut since 2010. Nothing has happened since 2010. Up until now, there's no intention on the side of government or anyone. The doctor says to us, he came here in closing, Chairperson. I want to quote what Dr. Hastings said. I came with great hope that you as parliamentarian, will use your power in the interest of our people. And I'm waiting to use my power in the interest of our people to ban these substances that are dumped in our country, that are banned in other countries. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mdwedi. May I allow the department, DG, are you here?
I am here, Honorable Chair.
Oh, thank you very much. That's your time, DG.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you to the South African Human Rights Commission for the presentations that have been made. And I think all of those from a perspective and the alignment with the real essence of the HRC in terms of protecting and ensuring that human life and human rights are being protected. Chair, there are a few areas that I would like to raise, very short. The first one is the appreciation for the presentations that have been made. I think it also signifies the essence of the interface of three critical areas, one around agriculture, around the environment, and also around how we would then deal with aspects of health. All of those then lead into the regulatory aspects on how do we then interface those critical areas. And the importance of One Health in terms of how we emerge as South Africa in terms of the various issues that have been highlighted. Chair, in the presentation that was made, it is quite evident that there hasn't been a conclusion that has been done in terms of the tribunal. There are still findings that have got to be made. There are still recommendations that still have got to be made. And for fear of making the wrong kind of inputs, may I request that in line with what the honorable members were requesting, we also request to have a copy of the findings and the recommendations, or better still, if there is still a chance in terms of making contributions, we be allowed to make those contributions. I have heard in terms of the commissioner that there were invites that were extended. I should say we have got very good working relations with the HRC, and I've just checked with the office. We have not had any indication in terms of the invite that was extended to the department, and therefore it would be my apologies, Chair. I just switched off the camera. It would be very important whether we would have that leeway to have an input. And offside, I will just contact the commissioner in terms of finding to whom the invites were extended. There's an issue that was raised around TB force and how far we have done. And I'm happy that Professor London, even in his articulation, was actually also making points that were made by the Department of Agriculture at the IMC Technical Committee that is meant to look at the issue around TB force. So I would like, Chair, with your permission, because I know that there is an engagement at the government level of government departments dealing with TB force, where there is also a team that is working on this, Prof. London being one of those, and recommendations being made that we allow that Parliament also makes that pronouncement, that I'm not going to make that pronouncement because there's a separate process that Professor London is aware of and has got to be made at the right level in terms of engagement as led within the IMC that deals with this very important aspect of the pesticide regulation in our country. I think the last issue was that in between the honorable members as parliamentarians and also the debates that ensued, there's quite a lot of case studies that were highlighted, either for or against. And I think that it's very important from a perspective of then when we finalize this, that level of objectivity in terms of what these case studies are informing us has got to come to the fore in totality. Chair, I would just like to indicate that from the last time that we had met with the Portfolio Committee, there have been engagements at the task team that deals with pesticides, in this case, TB force. There have been inputs that have been made. There has been a movement from the department in terms of this particular aspect of banning of TB force, which will be actioned based on the presentation that was made at the last meeting of the IMC. And for fear of just making quite a lot of issues very open, Chair, we would like to really find out from the Commission whether inputs are still around in terms of contributions, and we're looking forward to the findings and the recommendations that will guide the regulatory space within the pesticides regulation in our country. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. I want to believe that, or thank you for clarifying certain things. I'm just not very sure now that you're talking about the IMC and the decisions that are supposed to be taken, that which you refer to Professor London knowing about, as to when are we then to be afforded an opportunity to know what are the discussions that are happening, so that the committee does not take a decision or decisions that at some point are going to be delayed in the implementation because there is a process that is the parallel process that is happening. So if it is possible, please, you may want to help us with that at some point. But I don't think that DG, the commission would close if you have comments that you would like to make. I think they are fine. They can take them, as much as we're still also waiting for the recommendations that are going to come from the as Professor Pillay has stated. The one thing that we wanted to know, DG, was also whether have you engaged the other stakeholders? Other members here have spoken about the stakeholders from the agricultural side, where it involves farmers themselves at the professional level. I'm not very sure if I missed that part. DG?
Thank you very much, and my apologies, Chair. I always shy away from stealing the thunder from the right avenues, and I have also listened very carefully to Prof. London. You also stayed away from that. There is a recommendation that has been made, and I think that Cabinet would soon make that recommendation. It will not be long. I think what we will do from the department side, once Parliament makes that call, is to pronounce then on the process that would be followed subsequent to that Cabinet decision that would be taken around Tebi-Force. The elements in terms of consultations on the HHPs would be a broad process that would involve all stakeholders from our side. And it would also look at all the platforms, the conventions that we are having, from the African conventions, the Bamako, the Rotterdam Convention, and ensure that we have got broader consultation. So we intend to have a broader consultation on all pesticides of high importance, so that we can be able to deal with those pesticides in a very consultative manner that would assist the country in terms of taking the right decisions. Thank you very much, Chair. I hope that clarifies the issues that are at stake.
Thank you very much, DG. Yes, it does clarify. It means, therefore, just to allow Commissioner Ntuli to make a last comment quickly, just a minute. If you don't have, we'll then release you all as now we would like to take items that relate to the honorable members only. But I would like to say thank you very much. So whatever the department, the commitments that you've made or that you are making here, DG would like to invite you back to come and make those presentations, especially after you would have engaged with the Human Rights Commission and also the discussions that are happening on the other side at an IMC level, because those are going to help us, including the recommendations that are going to be made by the team led by Professor Pillay and Commissioner Ntuli. And if we can get, DG, if you can send us timelines of those responses that we expect back from yourselves and as the department. Commissioner Ntuli, your parting ways.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much for your time this morning and afternoon. Thank you to the honorable members. Thank you to the DG of Agriculture, and thank you to my colleagues, the fellow jurors of the tribunal, but also Professor London, as well as Heidi, the coordinator, for our mutually engaged deliberations this morning. Thank you very much. Honorable Chair, what we take away from these engagements, one, is an in-principle commitment from everyone present that the right to life is sacrosanct and it must be protected by all of us. We are also taking away the commitment, at least from ourselves, that having engaged you, we will continue to finalize our report, which of course will then be shared with yourselves. The submission from the DG of Agriculture is important in so far as... Hello, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, Commissioner and honorable members.
Not a problem. Thank you so much. The presentation by the DG of Agriculture is important insofar as it continues that rejoinder between this meeting and our last engagement. It is indeed very encouraging to hear that since our last engagement in February, there have been developments at the level of the IMC towards the proposals that we have made regarding TB4 and other HHPs. As you have indicated, Honorable Chair, it will be important for us to be apprised of these developments so that, one, whatever decisions are made at the level of the legislature are also in line with the decisions of the IMC and the decisions of, and also the pleas of the victims that are most affected by these pesticides. With regards to the question asked by the DG on whether they may make further submissions, indeed, in principle, that certainly is allowed. I will consult with my fellow jurors and we will formally communicate with the DG to invite those submissions, which will also include an update on the processes as they pertain to the IMC. With that, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, once again, thank you very much for your time. As the South African Human Rights Commission, we are mandated and obliged by the Constitution to defend constitutional democracy. And what that entails is also strengthening and enhancing participatory democracy, which is indeed what we have been able to do this morning in facilitating this discussion between the very important organs of state, including Parliament, the state, as well as civil society and academia, is a realization of the mandate which the Commission has been tasked with by the Constitution. We therefore thank you for assisting us in advancing this agenda, and we look forward to further engagements with yourselves. Honorable Chair, we will then share with yourselves the recommendations or the outcomes of our processes as we finalize them. Once again, thank you so much. Honorable Chairperson.
Chair Pillay, please come in.
Colleagues, I'm so sorry. Network just messed me up here. I got cut, but I am back. Thank you very much, colleagues, and the Professor, Doctor, Coordinator, and Judge Pillay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible to come in?
Yes, I was commenting, I was making a comment that we appreciate the presentation that we've received this morning and the responses. We will await Commissioner Ntuli the additional information that we are going to send after you have finalized, and I hope that you'll also meet with the department and allow them to make the presentations that they would like to make, or the information that they would like to share with you, so that we can come up with a
a closing of this discussions of this matter of the pesticides, and therefore would like to release you.
Before Chairperson.
Was there any member speaking?
Yes, Muntwedi, Chairperson.
My network. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was saying that I would like us to release the team that came with the Human Rights Commission and the judge. We will wait the final recommendations that they are going to send us. So Commissioner Pillay and Commissioner Ntuli and
can I come in before you release them, if possible?
Yes.
Okay, Chairperson, I'm a bit worried that there's going to be an allowance for further submissions. I thought the Commission was very clear that an invitation was sent to the department and the Minister. Now, are we going to open up this process again? Because it may not only be the department that would want to make a submission, it would be everyone. If we could get an indication in terms of the timelines to then say, by this date, the recommendations will actually be, handed down by the tribunal. Because I get worried that one of the commissioners raised an issue of the delays in this matter since 2010. I'm worried that we may find ourselves in that situation where there are delays again. Delays, to a point where there's no finality in this matter and our people are dying, being killed by these things. And I disagree with you, Commissioner Ntuli, that not everyone in this meeting has agreed to the right to life, that the right to life is sacrosanct. Because how do you say the right to life is sacrosanct to all of us and at the same time want to compare the right to life and the right to production of food and so forth? So, but it's your own conclusion that you've arrived at, but from input in the meeting, I don't agree with that thing. But my only concern is in terms of the timelines, to say when can we actually get this report done. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Muntwedi. I hear you. The DG has responded to say that the comments or the report that they would like to share with the commission, it's in relation to the banning of Tabifos. And as I said earlier on, colleagues, is that in the very same meeting when we had the minister here, the committee has raised the issue of banning of the Tabifos. After the commissioner and the Human Rights Commission has actually clearly showed us the difficulties and the fact that the Tabifos is no longer used in other countries and it's only used here. And the committee made it clear that the department must finalize on the matter so that this pesticide can be banned. And therefore the DG responds by saying that they will go and make a recommendation to the commissioner, to the Human Rights Commission, and therefore we will then have the final take on the matter. So the one thing that I had requested to the DG before I wanted to release them was that they must give us the time frames as you are actually reiterating, Honorable Mudwedi. And I also wanted to say between them and the Human Rights Commission, if they can give us probably the responses in 2 weeks, the recommendations that they want to add, that Judge Pillay spoke about, that they are going to add, we would like to have them in 2 weeks. And we also are saying that to the department and the Human Rights Commission, if they can finalize their engagement in 2 weeks and then come back to us. 2 weeks from now, it's by the end of the month.
I don't know whether that is acceptable to yourselves, colleagues.
Acceptable, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chairperson, may I come in, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just before you release the panel, when I previously said something in reaction to Honorable Montweri, you gave him the opportunity to respond. He has now said something that included me, and I would also just like the opportunity to respond to what he
Did
said.
I mention you that? Did I mention
no,
you?
but
No, you mentioned what I said.
Honorable Okampi did not mention your name. And I have already concluded on the matter. I would like us to release the team. Commissioner Ntuli, thank you very much for coming and for always making yourselves available to help the committee to have information on any matter or topic that arises that affects the rights of the South Africans. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate your time, Judge Pillay, Dr. Sophia, and Professor London, and the coordinator of the team. Thank you very much once more. We will meet next time.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you to the honorable members. We wish you a good day, and thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. You are released.
Chairperson,
And
I want to thank you
and
for
the
being
team of the
extremely fair
department,
today,
thank
and I
you
mean
very
that very
much.
sarcastically.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, honorable members.
Chairperson, you got cut there, or is there a problem?
Honorable Mupedi, I'm sorry, I got cut a bit. What were you saying?
I was saying you got cut there. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying I have already concluded, and then I requested to release the team so that we can then have our own meeting. And I see that Honorable Trolip already has his hand up. We would like to take, I want us to take the two items before one, which is the letter that we got from the Minister of Finance on the appointment of the board of the land bank, and then our program. Honorable Trolip, did you want to say something? Just before you
Yes,
talk,
I do.
let me check. Yes, I just want to check if it's okay. Can I just check if the team has left already? Okay.
Chairperson, that left.
Yes. Go ahead, Honorable Trolip.
Chairperson, I just want to make an observation. I think it's really not a good idea to receive a presentation from a tribunal or anybody without a complete report. That's my first observation.
Yes.
I don't think we should be hearing incomplete reports. Secondly, there was an assertion made during the presentations, and I wrote it down and I want to quote it, that says, government sides with big industry rather than protect the lives of the most vulnerable. Now, that is an extremely broad sweeping statement, and why I believe we should have completed reports for consideration rather than incomplete reports. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Trolip. My take is that, I hear you. My take is that at the end, when Judge Pillay made comments, she said something like they are going to finalize their recommendations. So it's fine that we have taken the presentations. We will then get these recommendations and that they are making, and we will then get the information that comes from the department that would have been added on the report of the Human Rights Commission. And then it will come back to us. We will make time where we can then discuss and conclude. And that's what I said at the end, that once we get this information, we will then come back and discuss and make a conclusion, whether we accept the presentation as such, because if we do have additional information that they are going to bring later on, they may give us a better understanding and direction of the decisions that we are supposed to be taking, or decisions that we can make. I appreciate that, Honorable Tolip. Can I then request Albertina to present the second item, which is the letter from the Minister of Finance? Albertina?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Chair, I think what I'm going to just present is the process of nomination of candidates as per the referral from the Speaker. The process is, Chair, I can say I've already sent the invitation to members, including the Act for the purpose of reference. And Chair, I think what the members are required to do now is to send those nominees, the name of the nominees that qualifies to be the member of the board of the Land Bank. So those nominees, Chair, if members are sending those names, the names must be accompanied by the documents that are reflected as indicated in the invites. And they must be nominees must be based on the required by the invites. And then Chair will also after we will receive those names together with those supporting documents, as the support team will sit and look just to double check whether those candidates they meet the requirements. And then from there, Chair will then include the qualified names of the candidates to the draft report that will be tabled in the committee, so that the committee can consider and adopt that report to report to the NA table, to the National Assembly. And then those that report, Chairperson, it must go together with those supporting documents, such as the qualifications, the acceptance letter, and etc. And then, Chair, what I can also suggest, Chair, because according to the letter, it says the minister says it requires that submission to be within 15 days, the committee to submit within 15 days. So when you calculate because the letter was signed by the minister on the 6th of May and was referred to the committee on the 9th. So from the 9th until the 29th, excluding the weekends, that means the 15 days is from the 9th until the 29th of May. But according to the revised program, Chair, of which it was shared with the members, the committee has to consider the report on the 27th. That means Tuesday the 27th, next week, so that we can, after that, it can be publicized, and then we can also share the report together with the documents, with the relevant emails as per the invite, Chair. I think that's all, Chair. Thanks. Okay, maybe some of my colleagues can also add if I miss out something. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Albertina. I know that in the emails that you received, or the information that you gave us, is the Land Bank Act, and I thought that was supposed to help members to know who qualifies to be a board member at the land bank. So if members can look at that too. Nox and Dopsy, is there anything that you would like to add that Albertina may have left out? Okay, silence is.
Nothing, Chair. Thank you. Just to
Okay.
suggest that members, if they have candidates in mind, to send them the letter, because in terms of the requirements, like in terms of qualification or expertise, those are stated in the letter. And then the Act, Section 10 of the Act gives guidelines or who is disqualified to be a member of the board. It's just that, Chair. For the candidates to know, instead of getting someone going through that and sending all the documents while they don't meet the criteria as per the letter.
Okay, you mentioned something about writing a letter. What letter are you talking about?
Chair, the invitation from the Minister of Finance. It outlines in other entities legislation, the actual requirements, like the qualification and the expertise that is required, will be in the Act. But in the Land Bank Act, it's not there. So National Treasury has that. So those are included in the invitation from the Minister of Finance. For example, the finance, strategy, agricultural research, rural development, auditing, and others. Those are listed in the actual invitation from the Minister of Finance. So that will be the qualifications and the expertise that the nominated candidates will have. And the legislation, the actual land bank legislation was forwarded so that members can see Section 10, what the disqualification criteria is.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought I just left you to explain, because I heard that you are now making a clearer input for the members. But the latter issue that I was asking about in the beginning, when you started, you said if members have in mind people that qualify, I thought I heard you saying that they must write them a letter. That's where I wanted you to clarify whether were you referring to the letter of the minister, to send them the letter that comes from the minister, or meaning that they should be writing them a letter.
No, Chair, I was saying they should forward them or refer them to the letter from the Minister of Finance. But in the letter, there's also a requirement for the nominees to write. There is no nomination form. So the person who agrees and meets the criteria to be in the board of the land bank must also kind of write some form of a letter that he or she will sign to say that they accept the nomination and also motivate why do they think they qualify to be in the board. It's also in that invitation from the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. Colleagues, there it is. Thank you, Nox. Colleagues, would you like to make a comment? It's very straightforward. Okay, it looks like members are satisfied. So, colleagues, if you can make the submissions before Tuesday, so that on Tuesday, the 27th.
My apologies. I'm not satisfied.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the info. Now, I want us to be clear here. Is there a letter written by the Minister of the National Treasury to the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture? That is just the first clarity that I want. Or are you talking about the letter that is written to the Speaker of the National Assembly by the Minister of Finance, where invitations are made to nominate candidates to serve as members of the Land Bank Board? And I'm saying this, Chair, and I also want to lobby members that there's a motion that I'm going to move with in Parliament today around the same land bank issue, to then say, what is the role of the Minister of Agriculture in the appointment of the Land Bank Board? Because the understanding is that this is an agriculture development bank that is an entity of National Treasury, in my view, as opposed to being an entity of the Department of Agriculture. So what role are we going to play as agriculture in making sure that candidates that get to be appointed into the Land Bank Board are fully aware of the agricultural sector and will be able to make sure that whatever policies that they implement in the land bank seek to empower farmers, because land bank remains a developmental agricultural finance institution to assist farmers that most of the time are not getting the same assistance from commercial banks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mpedi. Any other member who would like to add or comment? I appreciate the comments that you've made, Honorable Mpedi, and cautioning the committee that you are going to make a motion today. Nokzola, do you want to respond to the part of the letter that Honorable Mpedi raised in the beginning, whether we refer to the letter that comes from the Ministry or the Minister of Finance to the Speaker, and how it was referred to us?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Albertina, are you able to flight the letter or make me co-host so I can flight it? Yes, Chair, I'm referring to the same letter that has been forwarded by the Minister of Finance to the Speaker and also to the Chairperson of the NCOP to refer to the relevant committees, which includes ours, because Land Bank is an agricultural bank, and also the select committee that also deals with agriculture. Yes, it's the same letter, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mpedi. That clarifies your question.
Yes, yeah. Now, do we then make nominations as individual members of the committee, or the Committee on Agriculture would then say, these are individuals that we see that they are fit to contribute as members of the Land Bank Board? How do we then deal with that? Because clarity is provided that the letter is that it must be referred to portfolio committees that are in that space. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, colleague.
Okay.
Knox?
To assist the members, and for lack
Yes.
of a better word, committees in this case are more like a post office. They don't actually nominate. The minister, appoint, that's the word. Members or committees, they don't appoint. The minister appoints. There will be a pool of candidates. I think according to the Act, there will also be the invitation is out already to people who fits the requirements to serve on the board. But because legislation requires the minister to extend an invitation to the relevant portfolio committees. So in this case, the members will approach or encourage individuals that they know that qualify or that by knowing, obviously, to be people that they know in the sector or people that members believe can advance the interest of the sector when they serve in the board of the Land Bank. Because the committee has to report on this matter, it has been formally referred by the Speaker, which means then the committee has to report on this matter. Hence, Albertina explained that members would have approached those people, and those people can either send all that information to the members or to Albertina. And then we collate those members and check those that qualify, that meet the requirements. And also we don't have the capacity to go as far as checking if they don't meet the requirements according to the Land Bank Board, because the committee doesn't do the actual appointments, but just nominates. If the letter wasn't formally referred to the committee, members were going to send the nominations directly to the Minister of Finance individually. But because the committee, this matter has been referred to the committee, then the committee will select the nominations or add the list of those people with the required document that meets the criteria, and then send that list with the documentation to National Treasurer or the Minister of Finance and report to the House, as Albertina has explained.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that that clarifies and the matter to the members. I would like us to move to the next item, which is our program. Are you posting it? It's almost 1. Albertina?
Yes, Chair, I'm trying to post it, Chair.
Okay.
Is it on, Chair?
Yes, it is on. Colleagues, there is a program that was presented the last time, and because of the changes of the parliamentary program, we undertook to go back and redo it. If you can quickly look at it and indicate whether you are satisfied. Albi, just take the members through.
Okay, Chair, today is the 20th, and we are dealing with those agenda items, Chair. I think we are in the last agenda item. And then tomorrow, Chair, we are meeting jointly with Pussy on police to consider and adopt the report on the petition. The committee, it's a virtual, Chair, it's going to start at 8 o'clock. And then on the 27th, Chair, we are meeting with, we are considering what is on the last item today, the Land Bank nomination, and then followed by the CGE presentation. That will be physical, Chair. We are still going to be, the venues will be reflected in the notice. And then on the 3rd of June, Chair, we are having a briefing by the State of Company on Animal Welfare in SA. That will be physical, Chair. will also reflect on the venue when we are sending the notice of the day. On the 10th, Chair, we are dealing with a quarterly report, quarter 4 report. That will be physical, that will be the department, Chair, and OPP only, because we cannot include all the entities because it's only from 9 until 1. So after that, Chair, because of the change of the parliamentary program, now it was reflected in the communication that was sent, focus areas that was sent by the Office of the House Chair, that the tabling of the revised APP will be on the 13th of June. So after that will be Friday, and then the following week, Tuesday, the committee has to deal with the presentations on the revised APPs. We have to submit an application, Chair, because according to the program, there is that was started 2. So we'll submit an application to allow the following week. We have the committee to adopt a report, and then the following week, the report is to be debated, budget vote. On the 1st, Chair. On the 1st, that will be the budget vote, agriculture budget vote number 29. It is physical, M46 members. And then on the 8th of July, Chair, we will be dealing with the remaining entities, remember, on the quarter 4 performance report. That will be the ARC, NAMAC, and PPECP. That will also be physical, Chair. And then on the 15th, Chair, we are dealing with those item updates on the development of farmer register and review of national food and natural and nutrition security plan. As well as, Chair, there is a bill that has been referred to the committee. Is a private member's bill, the Performing Animals Protection Amendment Bill. So after that briefing, Chair, after the update did with the nomination of candidates, land bank, just to table and just update the committee on the process that will be followed to process that the bill. That will also be physical, Chair. On the 22nd, Chair, progress on the development of regulations for the PDAL bill, that is Preservation and Development of Agricultural Land Bill. Just an update, Chair. Remember, the bill was signed by the President, so I think the committee, the members will also know how far is the development of Chair. On the last item on the second quarter program, that will be the community strategy workshop planning. Chair, we are planning that it takes place on the 24th and 25th of July, that is Thursday and Friday, because according to the parliamentary program, those days are set aside for committees. That will also be physical, Chair, but we are not quite sure whether we will get a venue in Parliament, but if not, but we'll apply for inside or outside venue for that, because of the 2 days thing. That's that is the update, Chair, on the program. Thank you. I'm done, Chair. Hello, Chair. What's going on?
Yes,
Chairperson, are you there? Colleagues, I see the chairperson is on, but I can't hear. Chairperson, can you hear us? Chairperson, can you hear us? We can hear you, or you can hear people in the background there. Colleagues, is it only me, or
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I could hear you all, but I could see that even when I speak, you can't hear me. I'm sorry about that. Colleagues, Albertina has presented the program. I would like to hear your take on it. On the strategic planning, as you are saying, we may not conclude finally until we see what the program of Parliament would look like. But in the meantime, provisionally, we'll take those dates. Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I don't know if I've missed it, but on the previous program before the changes, there was an addition for that presentation by the companion animals. Did I miss it maybe now, or is it still on the program? Just some clarity.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the
It is still in the still in the program. Yeah, it is.
Thank you. I
You
think I missed
may
it.
have missed it when she was presenting,
Yeah.
but it's there. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's on the 3rd of
what is the date, Albi?
3 June.
The
Yes.
3rd of June, Chair.
Yes, so we have it.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so can colleagues move that we adopt our program? If you
I
are
move for
satisfied.
adoption, Chair.
Who's moving?
Smith, Bayer Smith.
Honorable Smith is moving for the adoption. Any seconder, colleagues?
Welcome, seconds.
Thank you very much, Honorable Okam, for seconding. The program is duly adopted then. Thank you very much for your time, colleagues. And the inputs that you continuously make in order to build the committee's resolutions and building each other in the process and assisting each other in the process. I truly want to appreciate it. So we'll meet next week on the 27th when we consider the joint committee's report on police and agriculture, and then take our own next meeting next week, where we're going to continue as the program has been indicated. Thank you very much once more. I would like, if there's nothing else from members, I would like us to close the meeting because it's already just after lunchtime.
Sorry, Chair, the joint is tomorrow, Chair, from 8 until 9.
Oh, yes, the joint is tomorrow, and next week on Tuesday, we have our own meeting, yes.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Colleagues, the meeting is officially adjourned. Until tomorrow.
Recording stopped.